Good evening. I want to welcome you and call to order this meeting of the Floresville ISD Board of Trustees for this date, February the 6th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. Let the record show that there is a quorum of board members present. Myself, Joel Odom, Ms. Liana Martinez, Mr. Jason Zavoda, Ms. Mona Reed, Mr. Stephen Shadrock, Mr. Marshall Clear, and Mr. Craig Moots. Furthermore, let the record show that this meeting has been duly posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. Mr. Clear will now lead us in prayer, followed by Mrs. Reed leading the pledge.
Heavenly Father, thank you for all your many blessings. Thank you for our Floresville community and for our school district that serves us. We thank you, Lord, for our superintendent, our administration, our teachers and staff, and most of all, we thank you for our students. We ask you tonight to guide our decisions through your wisdom and guidance. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one indivisible.
Now, Mr. Moots will now recite our FISD vision and mission statement.
The FISD vision statement is character, knowledge, confidence. Our mission statement is FISD is committed to the development of innovation, lifelong learners who possess character traits to achieve personal and professional success.
Now, Mr. Voda will recite our FISD goals.
FISD goals are excellent student outcomes, superior workplace environment, exceptional customer service and community engagement, and strategic resource management.
We will now do a round robin of the board recitation of FISD core beliefs. Our FISD core beliefs are: in FISD, we believe all students feel safe and supported in a developmentally and academically challenging environment.
Families are welcome partners in their children's education.
Faculty and staff are compassionate, dedicated, adaptable individuals who are student-centered.
Campus.
Go ahead, Mona. You're good.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Campus leadership is fair, equitable, and clearly communicates and engages with stakeholders.
Superintendent and central administration lead with integrity, transparency, and clear communication to provide a well-resourced educational environment.
Trustees provide student-centered and fiscally responsible leadership in transparent and ethical support of all stakeholders.
Now, Mr. Martinez will now recite our overview of good governance and code of ethics.
Each month, we highlight one of our good governance indicators and code of ethics that the FISD Board of Trustees follow to promote the best interests of the district as a whole. This month, for the code of ethics, we are highlighting equity in attitude. I will be fair, just, and impartial in all my decisions and actions. I will accord others the respect I wish for myself. I will encourage expressions of different opinions and listen with an open mind to others' ideas. Our good governance indicator for this month is the board has a written plan for the review and measurement of board advocacy for the district within the community and with other governmental entities.
Now we will have some recognitions for Floresville's ISD's Students and Teacher of the Month. Dr. Gilstrap?
Yes, this month we have our Students and Teacher of the Month coming from Floresville South Elementary, so I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Garcia. If you would please come forward.
All right, Dr. Odom, Board of Trustees, and Dr. Gilstrap and FISD community. I'm honored to stand before you this afternoon to recognize the FISD Student and Staff of the Month. Floresville South Elementary is proud to introduce 5th grader Isabella Young. She is joined here tonight by her mother Josephine Young, brothers AJ and Emmett Young, and extended family members. We are honoring Isabella as Student of the Month because Bella has qualities that are admirable and worthy of recognition. She is extremely empathetic and caring and always recognizes when someone may be sad or going through a hard time. She is always willing to lend a helping hand to her teacher, her friends, and other students. She has strong opinions and is always able to present them respectfully. Bella likes to draw original characters that she has created and play video games. Bella is a member of the Floresville South Elementary Choir and enjoys most genres of music. Her favorite bands are Cave Town and Blue October. Bella is interested in becoming a therapist, maybe even a pet therapist, or working with animals in some way. One of Bella's favorite places in town is Sonic, where she can enjoy mozzarella sticks and lemon lime slushies. Her favorite show is The Owl House, and her favorite book is The Wimpy Kid, Roderick Rules. I would like to take this time to thank Mrs. Young and Isabella's extended family for being here today, and congratulate Isabella on being one of Floresville South Elementary Student of the Month. All right, Floresville South Elementary is proud to introduce fifth grader Justin Wynn. He is joined here tonight by his parents, Mr. and Mrs. Wynn, and brother Jaden. We are honoring Justin as Student of the Month because Justin also has qualities that are admirable and worthy of recognition tonight. Justin is always considerate of other people's feelings and shows respect for his friends and classmates. He is always honest and owns up to his mistakes. He shows a high curiosity and excitement for learning. Justin likes to watch Netflix shows about Pokemon and play games on his phone, such as Roblox and Pokemon Quest. He loves playing soccer at recess, fishing, and riding his bike when it's warm outside. He says he really likes to sleep, and his favorite snack is chocolate cake with chocolate ice cream with giant chocolate sprinkles. Justin also really likes to sing, but is a little shy to sing in front of people. Justin enjoys being creative with his Legos and is really proud of a recent Lego truck he built. Justin's parents say that he's very helpful around the house. I would like to thank Mr. and Mrs. Wynn and his brother Jaden for being here tonight as we recognize Justin as one of our Student of the Month. Okay, at this time, I would like to recognize the Floresville South Teacher and FISD Teacher of the Month, Ms. Teresa Sisti. I'm honored to present you our Floresville South Dyslexia teacher. Ms. Sisti is one of the most kind and compassionate teachers that you'll ever meet. She loves her job, and it shows through her daily actions, her smile, and how she approaches challenges with such intentionality and grace. While Mrs. Sisti is an interventionist and only works directly with a small percentage of our students, she takes great pride in getting to know and serve all of the students in some capacity. She takes the same level of initiative in helping our teachers have the information and resources that they need to best serve our students. She intentionally builds time into her schedule to meet with teachers, check in on student progress, and keep families up to date on student progress. In November, Mrs. Sisti helped present at our district's Dyslexia Night, where I witnessed past and present students and their families come up to thank her for the difference that they've made in their children's lives. Mrs. Sisti has been in education for 28 years and has been a proud Floresville ISD employee for the past 26, where she has spent all 26 at Floresville South Elementary. She was a second and third grade self-contained teacher, and she fell in love with teaching reading and asked the principal to please consider if there was ever a job as a reading specialist to please consider her. Before she knew it, she got her dream job in teaching reading as one of the first Scholastic Rise teachers in the district, working with third and fourth grade students. Eventually one day, Ms. Sisti was asked to attend an MTA training where she learned how to teach students with dyslexia and has done so for over 10 years now. While she was always passionate about teaching students to read, Ms. Sisti says that she never really understood how to explicitly teach students to read until she started working with students with dyslexia. Mrs. Sisti's legacy is to help classroom teachers have a better understanding of how to teach students with dyslexia, as it is one of the most common reasons for poor reading. And she is positive that if all teachers knew what she knew, then more students would be successful in reading. So thank you, Ms. Sisti, for everything that you do for our students, our staff, and our Floresville ISD community. So please help me congratulate Ms. Teresa Sisti.
So I'd like to say a few things. So I'll start with our young students. So Isabella, it's very encouraging, the well-roundedness you've got. I wrote down a few things: caring, empathetic, helping others. You like to draw, you like to choir. Those are all great attributes of being a person that just doesn't want to focus on academics. You're well-rounded, and we appreciate all of that you do. Justin, considerate, honest, Netflix. What really sold me is chocolate cake. I love chocolate cake, chocolate morsels and chocolate syrup, so you're my kind of guy. I appreciate that. And I appreciate everything that you do to be a great student, so thank you for that. Good job. Miss Sisti, quite incredible, 26 years in Floresville. So I know you came from Pleasanton, you got here as fast as you could, and we appreciate that. But thank you for everything you do in taking education, that fine step of teaching that small group of our students how to be a better reader. And we thank you for that. Thank you for your contributions.
Also, I'd like to ask our 5th grade team back there. They are here to support those 5th grade students as well. So will y'all stand up as well? Just so you ready. All right, y'all come on up here and take a picture. Come on, Isabel. Oh, y'all can scoot on down. There you go. Come on up here. You can get in the middle if you need to.
Yeah. You good?
All right, so congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Right that way.
Justin, very good job. Now to go back this way. Thank you.
Love you, Jim.
Congratulations.
Very impressive. So I just remember you as a kid, so I end up telling her one at a time.
Sister, congratulations. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you. Especially thank you.
Congratulations, it's great to still see you.
We'll now recognize our FHS Mighty Tiger Band.
First of all, I would like to introduce Mr. Cathy, but before we turn it over to Mr. Cathy to introduce all of these students, which I'm sorry we can't get all of them in here at the same time. We thought about it and just couldn't, there were no room for parents. So congratulations on making it to state. What an accomplishment. It is not an easy feat. We realize that, and we celebrate that with you and with Mr. Cathy and his staff. It took us a couple of months to get here because y'all rolled straight into concert and solo and ensemble and all of those things because it's just nonstop. So thank you all very much, and I want to turn it over to Mr. Cathy to introduce y'all and say a few words.
Thank you, Dr. Gilstrap. I hadn't actually intended to introduce everybody. The names are up there.
You got it?
Why don't you introduce yourselves and tell...
In order?
No, down the line.
Okay.
And say what office you are, if you're section leader, whatever.
And then turn around
My
and
name
face
is Hannah Randolph. I'm the drum major.
My name is Madison Lovehead. I'm also a drum major.
My name is Maggie Silva, and I'm the student rep.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carolina Estrada, and I'm a drum major. I'm Andrea Reyes, and I'm a section leader.
I'm Alicia Nye, and I'm the color guard captain.
I'm Daniel Mezin, I'm the president. I'm Zach Young, and I'm the section leader. I'm Paul Street, and I'm the drum line lieutenant.
I'm Trinity. I'm the vice president.
I'm Brooklyn Chavez, and I was the woodman lieutenant.
I'm Angelica Gill, and I'm a section leader.
I'm Kelsey Strocher, and I'm also a section leader.
I'm Marcus Rodriguez, and I'm the tech chairman.
All right. Don't forget your assistants over here as well.
Oh, yes.
Introduce yourself.
And that's Jerry.
Where do I go? Hey, guys.
anywhere you fit in.
Go. Officer, whatever.
That's fine.
All right, now y'all gotta turn around and do it toward us.
Oh, I'm sorry.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Jared Shepherd. I'm the brass tenor for the band, and I usually try not to be late, but I had to run down this time. So, yeah, thank you all, for coming out, I'm sorry, everyone. I'm used to talking.
Just say your name.
Hi, my name is Winslow. I was a section leader for the clarinets.
You don't have to be expensive. And let's face the board. I'll try to keep this brief. What an amazing season these guys had. And you could almost tell from the first day. I mean, first of all, the Mighty Tiger Band is pretty consistent with the kids we have. They're always hardworking. They're always doing what they're supposed to do. But there was just a little something different this year. They, every day, I won't say every day, pretty much every day of the season, they wanted to get better and did what they did to get better and encourage the other students to get better, which is I think what the real difference has been. And we've always been a family and always been close, but they have done a fantastic job. I will say, I've been here 18 years as the head director at the school. We always do 2 or 3 contests before we start the UIL process, and this is the first year where we actually placed first at every contest. Yeah. The first one was East Central. We got first, and we swept the captions, which means they have smaller awards. We had best color guard, best percussion, best whatever. The next one was the Harlandale contest. The same thing happened. We swept the captions, got first place. And then the third contest was the Rocket Review, which for us, it's a big contest. There was a lot of competition there. And we were a little concerned. We didn't know, and we'd never really marched against any of these bands. And there were 2 bands at that contest that had appeared at the state marching contest last year, and another band that had made it to the area finals last year. And we had no idea what going in, what it was going to be. So those 3 and us, I was kind of hoping it was going to be the mix. And they announced the top 3, of course. And they said the 3rd place band, and they said the 2nd place band. And I turned to Mr. Beaver and I said, "Did we get 4th?" And of course we did not. We got first. And it was unbelievably exciting. And then next week is UIL. You have to get a first division at UIL to advance to the area contest, which we did. At the area contest, there were 34 bands, 34, and they take one band qualifies to state for every 5 bands there are. So if one other band had tried a little bit harder, they would have taken 7. They took 6. We were 5th in prelims, so we played marching finals that night, and then got 3rd at finals. So it was exciting. And then the roof came off of Floresville. I expected people were going to be excited and supportive, like they always are, but it was beyond anything I could have imagined. I mean, driving through town and seeing the signs, and every person I met congratulated me, to a person. It was insane. And all the former students that I saw, it was like they had made it to, like, the years they had spent in the band, that they felt like they had made the state marching contest as well. In fact, there's a strange Saturday, we had a solo and ensemble contest, and one of the judges came out of the room and hugged me and congratulated me. It was just very exciting. So then, of course, we went to the state marching contest, as all of you are aware, I'm sure. There were, how many bands were? 24 bands? And they take somewhere in the 20s, and they take 10 to finals. And we really try to press that we don't want to be results oriented. Winning a contest is great, but we really want to work hard and have a good performance, and I think we pushed that a lot this year. But of course we wanted to make finals. That would be the next step. They take 10 bands to finals, and we were 11th. Yeah, just missed it by 1. But I'll also say, when I got on the bus, I had an email from Dr. Farnsworth that said there are 194 other bands in the state of Texas that would love to be 11.
Yes.
Yes.
And I absolutely believe that. So thank all of you for your support. Thank you for everything you do for our kids. This is a great place to be, and I think the band is a great place for kids. And I think just looking at these guys, you would probably agree with me as well.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Congratulations.
Well, my heart just swells when I think of the Mighty Tiger Band. I love you guys. Y'all made my year this year. You really did, in making the state. And I tell you, we are all proud of you. The whole community's proud of you, like Mr. Cathy. Everybody, we're all proud of you. And I'll tell you, the hard work that you put in, because I see you in August, and I think, they're crazy. Not that you're crazy. But the hard work that you put in out there on that hot concrete, and you guys, it's amazing. It really is. And I can't listen. I admire anybody with talent, musical talent, because I can't even play the radio. So you guys, I admire you. Thank you for all your hard work. We're all proud of you.
Thank you.
We are gonna have to get like 2 or 3 deep over here.
Maybe I'm hard to the back.
During statement.
I'm on my toes. Guys, don't go.
I can't.
You want to switch?
Yeah.
You want to switch? You want us to block you or?
I got a.
Oh, you got a window?
Yeah, I have a window. There you go.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
This is the first time.
Sorry. Sorry.
1, 2, 3.
Wait, which camera do you want to?
Okay, one more time. 1, 2.
All right, now parents, y'all come on up here.
Yeah, which mom are we gonna look at first? All right.
Good looking group.
Thank you very much. You got some hands. Thank you.
In the line.
Welcome, I'm so happy to see you. Ireland here. I'm having a great day.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you. Mrs. Reed. How are you? Thank you.
Anybody here in trouble there? Congratulations. Congratulations. Oh, yeah,
Good job.
You do the public speaking?
Are you gonna be a lawyer? She was one of my students. I taught her Judith, and I was like, that's just such a beautiful thing that, you know, she was a product of the band and. What's that?
My son, I like your animals.
Mr. B, whatever.
Thank you, 5th grade teachers, for coming on board.
They didn't want to be home with their kids. They're like, let's go. Even with dad. We have a board meeting. We have
I know, he says interviews.
so much easier. We don't want you typing emails yet. They give you a timeout.
Marshall, that was.
I don't know how to do it. Some of those, what we do,
Ms. Petrie, do we have any public comments? All right. Next on the agenda is a public hearing over the 2021-2022 District Annual Report and Texas Academic Performance Reports presented by Dr. Wood.
Good evening, President Odom, Dr. Gilstrap, board members. Tonight I will be sharing the 2021-2022 annual report as part of a required public hearing. So on your, at your station, I've given you a hard copy, just in case you would like to thumb through with me. But I've got a digital copy that's also linked in your packet. The annual report is broken up into 8 sections, as you can see on this slide. Please note there are different years of information as I go through the report. Most of the information is for the school year 21-22, which is last school year. However, sections 2 and 6 have school data for 2020-21, and section 2 is 2019. Or excuse me, for 2021 is section 2, and 2019-20 is for section 6. So when I get to those parts, I'll remind you which year we're in. The first section of the annual report has the Texas Academic Performance Report, or what we call the TAPER, which is compiled by the Texas Education Agency for every district and campus. And the release of that report in December is what triggered the requirement for school districts to present an annual hearing. So the annual report also includes in section 2 the district's financial standard report data from 2020-21. That's not last year, that's 2021. And the district's accreditation status, campus performance objectives, and a report on violent or criminal incidents for 21-22. As well as information on student performance for post-secondary institutions for high school graduates from the year 2019-20. So the final section is the TAPER glossary. Please note that almost all of this information has been shared with the board in previous board meetings. However, Texas Administration Code 39.306A outlines the requirements for the district to present an annual report. So, the annual report contains details of student performance at each grade level, as well as specifics about academic growth and special populations. That information was shared with the board by Dr. Greta Warner back in September. So I'm going to only do a little overview of some of the information. So looking at this slide, the TAPER report utilizes our assessment scores and some other information to determine accountability ratings. So Floresville South Elementary and Floresville Middle School received a C rating, which was already reported to the board, and the high school and FNE received a B rating. FNE also received a distinction in the top 25% of comparative academic growth, and the district received a B rating. Here is some good news that I have not shared with the board. The district received a meets requirement for 21-22 for special education. This is an improvement from last year when we were needs assistants and had to write a report. So we're really excited that our special education numbers improved, so we do not have to do any kind of intervention this year. This slide provides some information about student participation on assessments, and I will point out that we have 99% tested, but not only 94% in accountability, because we only count students who are enrolled with us in October for accountability, so it's a mobility factor. Additionally, you'll see some attendance overview. I have up here comparisons for the last 3 years. Data for 21-22 is not reported yet, so please note this is 21-22, but when you get down here, the most recent data is 2021. Also noting, this is the year of COVID, and 2021 is when we had half of the district started in remote learning, and we were still remote learning 30% of our students by the end of the year. So that's just some context to help you with the years. So there is a slight decrease in attendance rate. So anything that's shaded pink is a decline, and anything that's green is at or above. I will say also the graduation rate at 92% is a slight increase, but the state average is only 90, so we're above the state average. We also had a slight increase in the dropout rate to 2.5%, but the state average is 2.4% for that year. So still we're right in line with the state.
But, so those numbers, go back to that, Dr. Wade, so those numbers, the dropout rate for 9 to 10, 9 to 12, I mean, how does that compare to other districts our size? I mean, you know, an average you said average to graduation is 90%. We don't want to be just average. I mean, so
Right.
the 92 is good, but I mean, what should we expect? I mean, you never get to 100%.
We'd like to get to 100%.
Sure, but I mean,
I can't tell you specifically, I don't have details about other districts our size, I'll be glad to get that for you. I can just tell you the state average, we're above. The next slide provides information from the taper about college career military readiness. Ms. Brenda Jones and Ms. Olivia Bailey presented some of this information back in October, so I'm not going to go in detail. But again, I want to point out, this is from 2021 data, so it was not even last school year. This is when we had 30% of remote learning. So the college career military readiness students only have to get one indicator to get that mark. So while our overall percentage dropped to 54%, I just actually pulled up the region area for San Antonio, Region 20 Service Center was at 58.9. So pretty close to this particular area. Not where we want to be, however. Specifically for college-ready students, again, this is 2021, this is not last school year. We were at 38.9%, but we did, which is a decline, but we did see an increase in our on-ramps percentage, getting a credit. That's from the University of Texas, so they take concurrent credit for physics and chemistry. So that increased from 5.2% to 12.7%. And then last, this is the career military readiness. Again, as I reported previously, the state has a moving target with college career military readiness. And you'll notice right here, we were able to count students who were in a coherent sequence of CTE courses that aligned with an industry-based certification. So they're taking coursework that has an industry-based certification. In 2021, we no longer could count those students. So that's why that says that's not measured. So that was giving us some points. And it's going to change again for the graduates this year. We'll get that information to you again. But that is a moving target about how they calculate that. We used to have military enrollment. We have not had that because apparently the Department of Defense does not want to share some information with us. But they created a way for us to count that with the graduates this school year. So we're collecting that data. So that will be added in the future. The next section of the taper includes information about student, staff, and programs, and enrollment, and ethnicity, and graduation information. So I will point out that our overall enrollment went up to 4,010 in 21-22. Our population of special education was almost constant. It's at 10.1, we were at 10.2. There was a decline in emergent bilingual ESL to 7.8%. Remember, this was remote learning because we were not able to sustain a bilingual program remotely. We tried to start out, but just could not do the staffing for that. So if they chose to remain online, they were doing ESL, not bilingual. So that's why that percentage dropped. Here is the good news. I should have colored this green, but it is an increase in staff turnover rate from 13.8% to 14.8%. However, the state rate is 17.7%. So that's not what we would like, but still pretty significant below the state level. So we're excited that, because at one point in time we were above the state for turnover rate. So that's been an improvement. Section 2, that's all section 1. Section 2 is the district's financial standard report. And Ms. Lindsay Engel reported to you about our first rating at the November board meeting. If you remember, we were A-rated. And that information uses the 2021 data. And I've linked that here if you're interested in that. We also had a clean audit that was shared with the board in October. Section 3 pertains to accreditation status. So the Texas Education Agency suspended the assignment of accreditation for the 21-22 school year due to COVID continuation. But a little foreshadowing, but little advanced information accreditation statuses for this school year were released last week, and we are accredited, which is the highest rating.
Section 4 is the campus performance objectives for 21-22. Just like our report to the board about our district improvement plan, our campuses go through the same process with creating goals, performance objectives, and checking progress periodically. In your board packet and in your hard copy of the annual report, you actually have all of the campus improvement plans if you'd like to look at that. I'm just going to give you a quick summary. So for goal 1, each student will maximize their potential. There were 54 strategies that were accomplished out of the total of 89 for all 5 campuses. Goal 2 is each student will be a lifelong learner, prepared for their future. Of the 57 strategies, 24 were accomplished and 32 were continued and 1 was discontinued. So if strategies are continued, that doesn't mean they weren't needed or purposeful strategy. It's just we're going to continue to work on whatever that strategy was. Discontinued might mean no longer do we need to work on that strategy, or it's not applicable any longer. Goal 3 is that each student will be a contributing member of the Global Society. And of the 22 strategies, we had 4 accomplished and 32 that were continued this school year. Goal 4 is that FISD will strive to build strong relationships with stakeholders. And of the 20 strategies, 8 were accomplished and 12 were continued. And lastly, goal 5 is FISD will exercise fiscal responsibility. Again, most of the strategies are continued next year, with 6 of the 17 being accomplished. Section 5 of the annual report is the report on violent or criminal incidents. Each year, Texas Education Code requires the districts to publish a report on violent or criminal incidences at the campus. And last year, there was 1 incident that met that criteria that was reported.
Is that, I'm sorry, is that up or down, or is that?
I think last year we had 0, and I think the year before we had 1.
Okay.
So,
Good.
is that right?
That is correct.
I think last year was 0, the year before there was 1. So, section 6 pertains
Real
to.
quickly, when a strategy is discontinued, is it replaced by something else, or is
necessarily.
it?
It's just a matter of, it's not needed anymore, or we've decided we're not moving in that direction for that strategy. And I'll give you an example that I'm getting ready to share in the dip that's coming up. One strategy was originally accomplished, and then the next month, or the next time we looked at it, it's just significant progress. Like, how can you accomplish it? It's not, because it related to staffing and hiring, and 1 person left the district and we haven't been able to replace it. So it just depends on circumstances if we need to discontinue or change a rating. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm just like for instance, each student will be a contributing member to Global Society. The middle school had 6 and they stopped doing 5 and are just doing 1. What would that mean, something like that?
So they decided to focus on the 1 and the other 5. We had a change in leadership at that campus as well last year, so then they decided we just want to work on this 1 strategy. Because the campus improvement plans are not a one and done, it's a work in progress. Like, we review it and decide, we've added strategies. In fact, this past month, I added some strategies to our district plan. So it's an ongoing process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, section 6 is about student performance for students in their first year in a post-secondary institution. Again, the most recent data reported for this is for the school year 2021, not last year, 2021. And then how did those students do when they enrolled in college, if we can track them, right? So this is Floresville High School. There's 4-year, 2-year public schools. This is the number of graduates we had. There's some independent colleges. We have 18. There's 14. Don't know where, if they enrolled or not. We had 158 found out of a total of 286. So if you look at, this is their GPA, that first year they're in a higher education institution. So if you add up all the ones that are 2.0 or greater, that is 78% of the students that were enrolled. Last year when I reported, it was 71%. So that's an improvement of our students being successful when they go on to higher education.
I have a question. Is non-trackable
And our parent says 220 or 2, and then it goes up on 14. I mean, they've moved out of state, or what is?
Yes, can't find them.
Wow.
They have to find a match with their records.
I know you were looking at 2.0 or greater, but if I look at the four-year university to focus on a 2.5 or greater, that 64% of the students did that. There was 25 out of the 39. How does that, to me, 2.0, you're walking a fine line in college, and especially your first semester, first year. So I would think we should be looking at those at 2.5 and above for them to be successful, because if they start with a 2.0, it's probably better than 50-50 chance either they're not gonna make it.
I would agree. You also know how freshmen are when they go off to college.
That could happen.
But we don't share any personal stories.
But if you look at the other one down, the 2-year public college, you look at that 2.5 or better, 70% were in that. Very good there.
Right.
But maybe that's just a major transition going from a smaller high school setting to a 2-year college versus a larger one. I don't know. I would hope those numbers would have been higher than 64%.
Okay. Section 7 is the progress of the House Bill 3 goals, which the board has to adopted after House Bill 3 was passed. So you've already received a report about this as well. But I just included the information as they presented to you about 3rd grade reading and math at the needs level. And we've had a significant increase in both reading and math scores for our 3rd grade students. Ms. Jones also reported in October the status of how CCMR is calculated. Remember I told you how it's changed, and it's changing again for this year's graduates, but there is a comparison between the state and FISD. And the final section of the report is just a glossary of the taper that has definitions, methodologies, and the data points. So that concludes our district annual report. The report will be posted on our website, and there will be these lovely paper copies available at the campuses if anyone would like to have to view them. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Since this is a public hearing, does the audience have any questions?
Thank you, Dr.
All right.
We will now move on to reports and updates. Dr. Gilstrap will start us off with the superintendent report.
Well, board members, I do want to give a brief little summary update. This past week on January the 24th at approximately noon, Floresville High School was placed into a lockdown based on a report by phone from a parent, and South Elementary and Middle School were placed on a secure status as a result of that call. So just to kind of give a little summary, and we've already pushed out a lot of this information in detail, but just to kind of let it be known as a part of this report. So the report indicated that a student on campus was potentially in possession of a gun. The administrative team took immediate action to secure the campus and quickly identified and located the student. Ultimately, the student was not found in possession of a gun or any other type of weapon, and nothing was ever found on campus. After consulting with ISD police, local police, and the county officials, it was determined that there was no imminent danger or threat to the campus, and the lockdown was lifted. So we want to thank our administration and Dr. Farnsworth and his staff for their quick response in reacting to that and making those quick decisions. Our middle school and South Elementary both took immediate steps as soon as they were notified. And most importantly, our staff at those campuses and our students, in the way that they reacted and they cooperated with the entire situation, it was just really goes and speaks to the character of our kids, the character of our staff, and also our protocols that we have in place. And we talk about those, we drill them, and our students understand them. This particular incident, I didn't realize it at the time, but this particular incident happened not only with 300 plus students in the cafeteria during lunch, which is one of the most chaotic times on a campus, also it was class changing time. So there were no students in class when this happened. Everybody was in transition. And whenever you have 1,200 kids on that campus and the staff, not necessarily in their location, they immediately took action. And in talking to the staff and Dr. Farnsworth, who was in the cafeteria, they reviewed those things. And so the students reacted appropriately, and our cafeteria staff immediately took steps to secure those students. And so kudos to them. And we once again want to thank our parents and our community, and again say, see something, say something. It's so important. And whenever we get those reports, we take those things seriously, we take action on those, and we investigate and make determination as needed. Also, as you're aware, last week on Wednesday, February 1st, we had to close due to weather conditions. After reviewing the weather forecast, communicating with county and local officials, and working with area school districts, the decision was made to close school for the day. This is never a decision that is made quickly or taken lightly, as it affects every student, staff member, and family across our district, and that's not an easy thing to do. But we do want to always err on the side of safety. Since we have sufficient instructional minutes within the current calendar, students will not have to make up that day, so we will not have to make that up for students. However, board approval is needed for us to be able to pay the staff so that they don't have to make up that day. So we've included a resolution as a part of this agenda for your consideration and approval. And if it's approved, then they won't have to come in and make up those days or that day as well. Again, I want to thank everyone on the campuses for their quick response and getting everything closed down and communicating with our families and making arrangements not only professionally but also personally. Like I said, our parents have to make arrangements at those times, and so everyone worked together to make that happen. So I want to say thank you to everyone. This week we will have our first of 3 long-range planning committee meetings with Dr. Haliska, who will be facilitating. We've got a group of approximately 40 students. Did I get that right, Dr. Wade? Halachka. I apologize.
If she's watching this, I want to make sure we got it right.
We do have approximately 40 members of this committee made up of community members, parents. We have some students, we have board members, we have staff on there, and they've all committed to these 3 meetings beginning this week. So the entire purpose of this is really for them to look at where we are currently and the potential for growth that we have. And looking at facilities in particular, that comes down to goal number 4, which is strategic resource management. And so we've got to start having those conversations, and they're ultimately in the end, I want to get their feedback, and ultimately, if needed, make a recommendation to the board on do we continue to do this, or do we just kind of hold steady where we're at? So we want to get their feel and give them an opportunity to review some data and come forward with maybe a recommendation of how we can proceed. Board members, just a reminder, Monday the 13th will be our annual Team of 8 training. This is required. Region 20 will be facilitating. We will have that training in here in this room. They will be coming to us for that training. We will also be covering the Evaluating and Improving Student Outcomes, which is called the ISO or SO training. That is required every 2 years. I think Mr. Mutes has already done it for this year as a new board member, but he's going to get to double dip in that one. So that training will be here. We will have that at 6 o'clock. We'll have a light meal that we'll provide for everyone because it will be a lengthy meeting as required by the procedures. And just a reminder, since it is a Team of 8 training, all board members need to be present. So if you are not going to be able to attend, please let us know as soon as possible so we can potentially make other arrangements. We do also have a policy committee meeting on Wednesday the 15th at 5:30 to review the TASB Policy Update 120. I believe each of you have received a video at least of that update in some of our weekly updates. I've been pushing that out to everyone so that you've got an opportunity to at least get a little heads up on some of those. Some of those things reported in the video aren't necessarily applicable to us because we do have the District of Innovation Plan. So whenever the committee comes together, it will not be that lengthy to get that done. If there's not any questions or concerns, then we'll include that in the March meeting, include approval of Update 120. Also, we have our Finance Committee meeting on Tuesday, February the 21st, again at 5:30. We will review our current budget and continue development of the 23-24 budget as well. Those two meetings will be in what we call the training lab, the training room. It's right next to our new office for operations and all that. It's in this other building. So you'll come in the front door instead of coming in the back door for those meetings. And also, with that being said, beginning in our March meeting, we are going to move our regular board meetings to the seminar room. And so beginning next month, we will have our regular board meetings in the seminar room. I've been working with Dr. Odom on how we want to arrange that room to maximize square footage as well as the screen, and how we're communicating with everybody in there and still able to recognize students. So plenty of space to do that, but we need to prepare this area in our renovation for the Early Childhood Center. And so that needs to start in March, or actually later on this month. And so next month we will have to relocate our regular board meetings. Speaking of the Early Childhood Center, today we did have interviews for the principal position, and so we will be moving on to our second round interviews for that. We planned a timeline is to have someone in that position by the end of the month, and if needed, whether it's an internal or external candidate, potential board action in March to offer a contract if needed. Several events, again, coming up. You see those listed there. Starting in March, Alyssa will be putting together the events for the spring because there are so many of them. If you recall last year, we try to keep a running list of all the opportunities just to be out, be on campuses. A lot of great things going on with just end of year celebrations and ultimately with graduation. So we can be expecting that in March as we start counting down to the graduation ceremony. And then there are a couple of future agenda items listed there as well. As always, I encourage everyone to please let me know if you have any questions. Be glad to meet with you individually and discuss any questions or concerns. Any questions?
Dr. We will now report on the district improvement plan formative review.
Okay, good evening again. Tonight I'm going to share the formative review that was conducted by our district leadership team in December, which included a review of all 4 of the goals. I'm going to provide just a summary only, but you have the detailed report in your board packet. So, goal 1, excellent student outcomes. For this goal, there are 4 objectives and 32 strategies. 2 of them are accomplished and 23 considerable progress. Oh, and by the way, Ms. Martinez, I looked at one of the discontinued strategies for middle school was supporting dual language, because that year, in the middle of the year, we were not able to continue dual language, so that's an example. But here's an overview, just a high-level view of some of the accomplishments for this goal. For student safety and well-being, we had a couple of principals attend a flagship event for Capturing Kids' Heart, and we had the Capturing Kids' Heart strategist come to the district and actually spoke with her myself, and she was very positive of all the things that she's seeing on the campuses. And according to Alternative School, we've had a reduction in alternative school placements from Floresville ISD, so that's good news. For academic growth, we had interim assessment data that we administered to all campuses, and we reviewed that data with the principals and talked about their action plans to address the needs of students. Accelerated instruction, which is a requirement for House Bill 4545, is continuing on our campus. And one campus is actually doing a little incentive for students working on 2 programs, Lexia and IXL. It's a math and a reading program, and they get what do you call that, Mr. Barrett?
Block party.
A block party, okay. I know they've had some fun, was it a snow foam party? Just a little tangible incentive for students to continue to make progress on those programs. Innovative and personalized learning, we had our blended learning leadership convening, so representatives from each campus traveled to the Holdworth Center in Austin to kind of review our implementation of blended learning. And we've actually had teachers within the district that have been visiting other campuses within the district for a site visit, but we've also had site visits to Harlingen ISD, and other districts are planned. Our principals shared the implementation of our FISD learning model at their principal meeting recently, and we have a coach that is supporting dual language at both elementary campuses, and I've heard some really good successes from that supported teachers. So I showed you the career military readiness, college career military readiness numbers. Well, we are making progress on improving those numbers. As of this report, 249 industry-based certification tests have been given to students. So that was just in the fall, and more are planned. So we're hopeful that those numbers will go up. And FHS has had an incoming parent night to make sure that students and parents are prepared for coming into the campus. And they've also had a college prep night, getting ready to go to college. Goal 2 is superior workplace environment. This goal has 3 objectives and 17 strategies, of which we've made considerable progress on 9 and accomplished 2. In the area of continuous learning and support for staff, we made an adjustment to the required reading academies for elementary teachers. So we found out that if they had the Science of Teaching reading in their preparation program at university, there was a reduced version of the Science of Teaching reading. Instead of 60 hours, it only count 40 hours. So we made an adjustment to allow them to take that professional learning. Principals and staff have been reflecting on our professional learning community implementation to making sure that we're making progress in that area. In the area of staff safety and well-being, we submitted a request for proposal for insurance and received a TASB salary survey. And then the superintendent continues to meet with our teachers of the year each month to make sure we have staff input. Did I go too fast?
Yes.
All right. Goal 3 is exceptional customer service and community engagement. There are only 3 objectives and 4 strategies for this goal, and we've had considerable progress on 2 of them. Most of the progress in this goal is related to the input we've been receiving on our strategic plan 2.0, both from students and the community. And we also have a long-range planning committee that is we've been working on, and that meeting will be held on this Wednesday. In the area of community partnerships, we continue to post monthly staff and community newsletters. And our high school was planning on an emergent bilingual summit, which happened actually last week, I believe, where a reporter from Telemundo, a former bilingual student, came and shared with those students. And there's more events like that planned at some of the other campuses. And then also our POPs program has continued to get volunteers. Strategy 4 is strategic resource management. There are 4 objectives and 9 strategies, of which we've accomplished 1 and had considerable progress on 4. Most of the progress here is about the long-range planning facilitation and the relocation of central office, both our teaching and learning team, and then the rest of operations and finance and the superintendent's office here. The other area in terms of strategic allocation of resources is PEIMS coding. So as I've learned this year, what they say is PEIMS equals money. Did I get that right, Ms. Engel? PEIMS equals money. So all the coding that we do, is this student a bilingual student? Is this student receiving dyslexia services? Is this student an RTI? All of that kind of coding translates to money that the district receives. So we take a real hard look at our PEIMS reporting and making sure that that is accurate. And it found some things and put processes in place to make that even better. And we were able to submit our October PEIMS submission on time. And then finally, in the area of systematic safety and security, the emergency operations plan that was submitted by the district was approved. That concludes our second formative review. In April, I'll share the 3rd formative review that the district will conduct. And then in June, share our summative. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Nobody gave me a gold card. Okay, thank you.
Unlucky.
Next on the agenda is item number 5, action items. First action item is the consent agenda. Does anyone have any questions or discussions on the items on the consent agenda? So we'd like to have a motion on this item. Motion?
Move to accept consent agenda.
I second it.
All right, Lana seconds it. All right, any further questions on that? Discussion? All right, All in favor, let it be known by raising your hand. One opposed, 7-0. Carries. All right. Next action item is to consider approval of the 2023-2024 FISD school calendar presented by Dr. Wood.
I'm sorry, it's me again. In your board packet is the proposed 2023-2024 school calendar. As I shared with the board last month, the district has a very detailed process about calendar development, and so we're here at the end to present a proposal to you. In your packet, I've included a summary sheet that also outlines the differences between the two final calendars that were presented. The calendar committee, I've summarized for you in your cover sheet, the calendar committee's recommendation, what the staff said, and then lastly, our district education improvement committee reviewed the calendars just at the end of January and are recommending the approval of calendar 1, which has 167 student days. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have about the calendar proposal.
What number or how many votes, how many people voted? Across the district?
280, I believe it's 280.
Okay, and then of that 280, how many of them were teachers, do we know?
I did not collect that data, I'm sorry.
And it's 280 of how many total
About 500.
that should have voted? Over 500?
Or right after, it's probably a little less than 500.
No, actually, it's just over 500, about 530. The only ones that were not included would be Sodexo staff.
Okay,
That's the only ones we did not include.
okay. And then how many members are on that calendar committee?
There are 2 representatives from each campus, and then there's 1 or 2 central office people. We always include Ms. Kelly Ward because she makes sure that I keep my minutes exactly correct.
And how many attended the meetings each time y'all had one?
The first meeting, I think everyone was there. The second meeting, I did not have as many, but I had 3 campuses represented. I don't remember the exact number.
Okay. So that vote, I'm sorry, the 66.7 and 32%, how many voted for that? How many were present when the calendar committee voted?
I think it was in that second meeting.
Yeah, there's 6, maybe, 6 people that ended up, 6 or 8. I'd have to go back and look.
Yeah, because there's big disparity in the numbers between the calendar committee, the district education improvement, and then the staff. I mean, they're all over the board.
So one of the things in the calendar committee preference, I asked them an open-ended question, give us some comments. And so most of the comments, and I think we had 24, most of them were positive. We appreciate more days. I like the calendar. I like having days off after Christmas. There were a couple, 2, 3, wanted more days off before Christmas.
Before the voting, before this was sent out to campuses for voting, what was put forth to teachers in order to clarify what these PD days were, what the differences were between the 2 calendars? Was there some kind of presentation provided to teachers at the campuses, or was this just kind of shut out there with the email? For instance, when you look at the differences between the 2 calendars, there's a big difference between the PD days for the teachers.
So what went out, there was not a presentation, but in the email that I sent and that we put in the quick notes as well, so there was a survey that went out in our monthly communication, and then before the deadline for them to submit, I sent an email a couple of days ahead of time saying, just remember, if you haven't voted, please vote. And in that communication, we said what we tried to do was include more professional learning days for teachers, because we heard from the survey I think I shared with the board, that was something that would help recruit and retain teachers. So that was the goal for those professional development days. But in terms of specifying what's happening on each day, I will tell you one of the things that we did do is we added more work days. So you'll see the days that are in black. Those are specifically days that we do not do any meetings on those days. So they know that. They know that a black day is a work day, and we're not going to schedule a meeting or any kind of training. So that's really clear.
So was this, when we surveyed them, was the email sent out separately, or was it included with the general email for them to vote on these calendars?
So the first communication they had was in a monthly communication. We call it our FISD quick update that goes to all staff. There's lots of information in there. That was part of it. And then I sent a direct email to every employee before it was due, saying, don't, just remember, here's the link again, here's the information about the calendar, to remind them.
So I see our times have lengthened in our day. We're at 465, 480, 485. We continue to increase, and we have districts within our area that are going to 4 days, and their days are gonna be 485. Why do we continue to increase our time for our students? And when we're trying to retain our staff, when things look good at somewhere else, we're gonna lose our staff because our times are getting longer for our teachers and our students. And that's something I think that as a board, we need to look at the time that our teachers, our staff, and our students are in class.
So the 485 for the high school is not a change at all. That's
No, but the
same-
480 is for middle school and the 465 for elementary is.
Right, that's a 5-minute increase for the elementaries. And it is an increase for middle school to align them more with high school because they were the lowest minute of any campus. So we wanted to try to get them aligned. So that was the reasoning for middle school, but for the elementary, it was just 5 minutes.
Well, they're gonna start at 7:15 to go to 3:10, so that's actually a little bit longer because they start at 7:25 and get out at 3:05 now.
We haven't set the exact start and end times yet because we're working on transportation schedules with opening up this early childhood campus. So we were actually meeting about that today to set the time. So that's not been set.
I'm just asking them.
But
We
the
need to
time,
look at our
the
times.
minutes, but the minutes are what we're building that calendar off of.
Yes.
The high school is tied due to 5x5 requirements for CTE. So that's where that number is generated for the high school. The middle school aligning to them, we have so much, we do have staff that crosses over between the two and they can get into scheduling issues and everything else. Also with transportation, rotating between the two campuses, we needed to get them a little closer aligned to what the high school is doing. And then the instructional minutes at elementary, we did bump that by 5 minutes. It allows us some additional time as needed with our instructional minutes per area or per content in elementary.
So my math, I think that means high school's going roughly 18 extra days. Middle school's 14 extra days and elementary 8 extra days.
And so those are extra days we have. For example, what just happened last week with the closure for weather, we're not asking students to make up that day because we have enough minutes.
That's an excessive amount of extra days.
So the other thing we're going to do for middle school and high school is, which is not noted on the calendar, in December and in May, there will be 2 extra early release days for final exams or midterm exams. So on, for example, everybody gets off a half a day on the 21st of December, but middle school and high school also have an early release on the 19th and the 20th. Because they do have some extra minutes.
But is it normal to have that many extra days in the bank?
I can't say that it's normal. I don't know. I haven't gone out and tabulated all the other districts' pieces. It's something that you always want to make sure you have is a good 3 to 4 days in there makes you feel comfortable. 18, I understand, is a big number. But again, based on the 5x5, that's one of the things that's needed in order to get CTE funding for those classes. Because they have requirements per course that they have to do, which we can get into on a whole separate conversation.
And you were talking about going to 4-day. The Lavergne is really split on it because the wait time for any daycare is 2 years. My daughter-in-law is about to tear her hair out. And we do not, like Floresville, there is no enough daycare. And that's what, some of those ladies in Lavergne, a lot of them stay home. And the other ones are going, what do we do with their kids? I mean, I know it's like time off for teachers, but you gotta think of the community also. It's just an example that
I'm just looking at it as retaining our staff and our faculty.
Yeah.
When you start looking at that time, what they're gonna be here, and you got districts around us running the same amount of time, and they're gonna have students for 4 days versus 5 where our staff is.
So we had a conversation about 4-day week. We had it with the board, we also had it with our calendar committee as well, and it was not garnered with great support. And so that's why we stepped away from that, at least at this time. I do realize that there's gonna be more and more districts that may potentially go to that, so that's probably gonna be a topic of conversation that continues. But as a district, we moved away from it just based on the feedback that we received from staff, that it just was not gonna be something they wanted to look at right now. And while there are some districts going to that, and some of them are going over 500 minutes in order to get those minutes, there are advantages and disadvantages to it. And so, again, that's another topic for another conversation.
Sounds like
The
what
number
I
of
hear is like
minutes.
we're extending, seems like we're extending our time and they're getting shorter, so how we're gonna retain those teachers, they're not gonna jump ship by those days, by the excessive days.
I mean, when you have
understand we need to
500
that cushion, but.
When you have
What you're
500
saying is-
employees
It's a big
and you only have 280 vote on it,
What have we had in the past as far as?
About 220.
We've had, in recent years, it's been that.
It's been that much. Those- that
It's
many
been,
days.
it's been in that 15 plus at high school.
In the dark ages, we had to turn it in initially. I think I'd get credit voting.
Yeah, somebody asked about what we increased, I think, 40 people that participated in the preference from last year. More people participated.
But we haven't had a lot of pushback from faculty, staff, anybody's like, hey. that's-
No, I mean, we had our DEIC meeting, which included, I think there was one parent that was there, is that correct? Who was also a substitute for us. And that staff was on board with both of them. I mean, we had those discussions.
So the conversation I had with DIC, there was somebody brought up about the days before Christmas. That was nobody talked about the minutes. All that they talked to me about was, we want some time before Christmas. But when we shared, the calendar committee did not want to come back on a Friday in the beginning of the year, like, oh, never mind then. We don't want to come back on a Friday either. So that's why you see that DIC number so much higher.
It just seems, the vote was really close between the two calendars. And, the fact that one has got 11 PD days and the other one is 6 PD days. And we know that those PD days are not necessarily professional development where you're, having to listen, here's another strategy or something else that they want me to implement. And it's something where I'm working with my professional learning community, or I'm planning with my team, we're creating creating assessments or something like that. I just wonder if maybe, if there had been, more clarification with that, maybe the voting might have been a little different.
Well, that's
If that
something
had been clarified,
That's
The other
something we
thing
can
is-
definitely.
it's a big difference.
The other thing is, whenever we meet with our calendar committee, we do discuss some of those things about what those different days are. That's when the calendar committee who represents their campus needs to go back to their campus and, educate them and let them know those kind of things during their staff meetings or however they push it out. And a lot of them come back with feedback from their campus.
Well, they came the first meeting, represented, this is what some people told me they want, like, first meeting, telling me, because they are selected by their peers to be on the committee. That's not an appointment, they're selected by their peers.
Yeah, it just, when you compare those differences between option 1 and option 2, and the preference based upon your tally is option 1's the preferred, but as you said, there's 11 versus 6 P days. There's 3 more student days if you go option 1. There's 29 holidays in option 2, but only 25. Seems like they're giving up more.
They
in
did not
option
want to
2.
start school early.
It's
That's
that
what
week,
we-
it's that week difference
Yeah,
between
they
August
did.
1 and August
Yeah,
7th.
they did not want to come back to school.
One of the things that the staff typically look at is they want to start themselves, the teacher work days, further in August. And coming in July is off the table. I mean, it's.
That's foolish.
And then the other one is finishing before Memorial Day. They like to finish before Memorial. That's consistently the feedback. Those are the two things, the first two things they look at is when do I have to be here? And do I get done before Memorial Day?
and we're trying to keep it at 187 teacher workdays.
Correct.
That's teacher.
But if we are the district of innovation, correct?
Yes, we are.
And we can change that teacher workday in their contract.
Yes, we can.
And-
However, we would have to have that discussion that's more lengthy discussion. If you ever go back, then you're gonna have problems. Because we back off and we put teachers on 170, and then all of a sudden, hey, now we gotta go to 180, but we're not gonna give you, your daily rate just changed. That's a morale buster. The other questions you have with 4-day weeks, again, these are all different topics in what other districts have crossed. All of your hourly staff, how are their pays calculated? How are your drivers calculated? Because now you have fewer instructional days. How is cafeteria staff paid? How do you maintain this is what my annual salary is, without giving substantial hourly rate increases, because now the number of instructional days has dropped. There are a lot, and there are answers out there for that. People are doing it all over the place. But it does bring up some concerns whenever you start backing off that 187 with the staff.
And our district of innovation currently does not allow us to do that.
Yeah, we did
would
not
have to go
include
through the
that.
whole process of another district innovation amendment to make that happen.
We
But our
did
current
not
one
include
does not
that in
allow
our
it.
current DOI. It is an option, you can put it in there in the DOI, but we did not do that as a district.
Any other questions?
I'm struggling with the differences, and basically it's at August 1 versus August 7.
Like, if you look at the DEIC number, I think that clarifies when they were trying to figure, I said, if you guys can figure out a way that, because here's the other thing, if you recall, one of our objectives was each month to give teachers a day off and then a professional learning day, because we know they're in the middle of it, it's not before the end, in the middle of it, I need to take a breather. And so that's why you'll see more days off for teachers, except for, I think, the month of April, because we are purposely trying to give them a breather during the month, and then a professional learning day without students, which, as Ms. Martinez stated, is not necessarily a setting in training, it's professional
Actual
learning with
working
my.
on. Right, and that's why I just wonder, because, I know as a person, if I'm getting a newsletter and, there might be something linked at the bottom that might be time sensitive, and if I'm not aware of that, I may just kind of set that aside and read that brief later, not realizing that there's something here that, has a deadline, and also just that, that clarification as an educator myself, I feel like, oh gosh, I would love to be able to have some of those breaks in that planning time planned into my day so that I'm not having to take all of this work home every night. And I can do this on my time, and I just wonder if that had been clarified, would the numbers be different? Just because they were, they're kind of neck to neck.
Right, and like I said, I did send a direct email to all staff before the deadline to remind them to vote. But I'm also about improvement. This is the same process I've used since I've been in the district, so I don't know if this is my 5th calendar to propose. So I just tried to do the same process that we've done in the past, but,
So, what would it take, or what would that change be? Is it possible to go back and present what those PD days are, or to add and clarify some of that information for teachers at each campus and not just rely on that committee representative, but maybe, the principals clarifying that, or someone else, a campus leader clarifying that for teachers, and then open that voting up to teachers who haven't casted their vote yet, or maybe even giving teachers opportunity to change their vote if they wanted to after that. Is that a possibility?
Well, anything is a possibility.
Can we do that?
Anything is a possibility. I will say that we do have families that are waiting for the calendar to be approved, so they can request time off at their jobs and all that kind of stuff, and so it would just postpone that process for another month.
the thing that I have been passed, we always had supposedly work days or not as speedy to work, that we have to make sure, sorry, principals, that no meetings are put on them. I mean, we would be all set up to work, and then we have this special meeting, you know, and then we get maybe 2 hours in our room after you have lunch, and then,
I feel like we've done a
yeah,
good job
but I'm just saying, make
holding
sure
that
that they,
sacred. This is also, we also presented this entire process last month with no, or very limited discussion.
Any other comments? Okay, administration recommends the board approve the FIC 2024 school calendar as recommended by the District Education Improvement Committee and presented by administration.
All right, do we have a motion to accept the calendar?
I move to accept administration's recommendation on calendar option 1. Is that correct, Dr. Wade?
Option 1, right? Option 1.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Little makes the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mr. Clear. All right, any further questions or discussion? All right. All in favor of accepting the option 1 calendar for the 2023-2024 school year, let me know by raising your hand. Any opposed? You're not abstaining, you're opposed. All right.
Thank you.
All right, we will now consider approval of staff development minutes waiver. Presume
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Yes, yeah. You need to come back up.
she
Stretch your
need to
legs.
sit down a little bit.
Stretch your legs.
I'm sorry, I thought I was keeping up, but I wasn't, sorry. So, the staff development waiver is for Texas Education Code 25081. It allows the district to waive 2,100 minutes for professional learning that's in the calendar to count towards student instruction. So we always ask the board to approve this just in case. We do not need the 2,100 minutes, which is approximately 4.5 days. But if there was an event where we had to be closed, and I'll give you an example, was it 2 years ago when the Stormageddon, whatever we call that? The
Tornado.
ice, right? And the superintendent at the time was calling me and say, how many more minutes do we have? How many more days do we have before? I'm like, we're good. So it does help in case of extreme weather issues. So the district, if we had closure, would allow us to add those minutes back without having to make them up. Any questions about that waiver? If not, the administration recommends the board approve the initiation of the application for 2023-2024 staff development minutes waiver to Texas Education Agency.
Any motion to accept the administration's recommendation?
I move.
All right. Ms. Reed, any second? Okay. Ms. Boda? Any other further question or discussion? Okay, all in favor of accepting the administration's recommendation of the TA 2023-2024 application for staff development minutes waiver? I can say all that. Let me know, raise your hand. All right. 7-0.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Next item we will consider is approval of resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H organization and adjunct faculty agreement with Karnes County, presented by Mr. Schroeder.
Good evening, Mr. President, Board of Trustees, Superintendent of Schools. Annually, Floresville ISD students attend activities approved by the local Board of Trustees, and that includes livestock shows in conjunction with FFA and 4-H, Floresville High School agriculture teachers, and occasionally other county extension agents serving as adjunct faculty members. All adjunct faculty members must have a minimum of a bachelor's degree and be eligible for our Texas Teachers Retirement System. The adjunct faculty agreement with the Karnes County Extension staff allows public school students to be considered in attendance when participating in off-campus activities with an adjunct staff member of the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service. This year we had one student that participated in the Karnes County show. In accordance with the provisions of the TAC, known as the Texas Administrative Code, this agreement is for the benefit of allowing voluntary student participation in programs conducted by the Texas A&M Agri-Life Extension Service in recognition of the educational benefits arising from such participation and activities. We do this every year. With that said, are there any questions?
Why is there one student in Karnes County?
And so they can't just show at any county. They've got Lavernia, they've got Floresville, they've got Karnes. You may be able to speak a little more to that, Craig, but you can't just show at every one.
I understand that.
And so with that said, there has to be a resolution, such as if someone wanted to possibly show in our show, we would have to have a Wilson agreement, a resolution by, I guess, Karnes County board for them to show in our county stock show. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I thought it was based upon where you lived dictated what county show you.
There is some validity to that. Angela, you guys reside, and the student is Angela, and I shared that with the board in the past.
So y'all are approving Eric Taylor, the Ag Extension Agent of Karnes County. We reside in Fall City. Levitt is current president of his 4-H in Fall City, and he shows through the 4-H program, even though he's a student here at Floresville High School and has been.
So he's a transfer student.
Fourth grade. So that's what that is.
Okay.
So that we
That makes, okay, that helps. Thank you.
So this also allows like requirements for student attendance accounting for state funding purposes, allows public students. So they're excused, in other words, when they show.
Well, they're not just excused, they're county presidents.
Presidents,
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Extracurricular activities, so we receive funding.
Yes, sir.
Live there, attend school here, go to 4-H.
Correct. Any further questions, board?
That's fine.
I move to accept the administration's recommendation.
Did you make a recommendation yet?
Oh, sorry.
We're waiting for you
Now,
to do
Craig,
that
you
first, and then we'll-
I could just
So
read
there-
his recommendation.
There's no further questions.
Right. Yeah, we're ready.
Administration recommends the board approve a resolution regarding extracurricular status of 4-H organization and adjunct faculty agreement with Karnes County as presented.
All right. Now, do we have a motion?
I move to accept the administration's recommendation.
Ms. Boots, and Mr. Flair seconds it. Any further questions, discussion? If there are none, accept the administration's recommendation, have the number raise your hand. And anyone opposed, 7-0. Thank you.
Board. Yes, sir.
Now we will consider approval of purchases exceeding $50,000. You're going to come up and share that with us?
Yes, sir. Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Oda, Dr. Gilstrap. So the purchasing question tonight is student devices. Going back to the fall of 2020, Floresville ISD has been a one-to-one district. And so what we mean is there's a device for every student. Sometimes they're take-home, sometimes they're on carts in classrooms. The devices that we use right now are Chromebooks and iPads. Both of those share about a 6-year useful life that we've got. So essentially, once a year, we have to purchase a 6th of those devices to keep them updated. They get a little slow, they fail on occasion, and the manufacturer just stops supporting them in general. So what we'd like to do this year, though, is refresh them in 2 different purchases. So this first purchase that we're talking about is going to be our Chromebooks for our 2nd grade and up students. And so we bid that out to 3 different vendors and came back that ODP Business Solutions ended up being the most cost-effective solution, and that is their rebranded Office Depot is who they are, just an FYI. But the quote was for 644 units, and that total was $194,488. And you've got those quotes there actually, if you like them. The funds that we're going to be using were allocated in this year's budget. And we're just bringing this for your approval because it's over the $50,000 limit set forth in CH Local. At a later meeting, we'll come back and bring that second purchase back, which will be our youngest students' devices. We've got an opportunity coming up to kind of reevaluate what we're doing at that level. And there's a technology committee meeting coming up actually this week later where we're going to present that solution and get their approval and any kind of concerns we might have before we bring it back to you guys. Any questions you might have, I'll be glad to answer them.
So the $194,488 is a total sum from a few different funds, but the local budget, I believe, is a little over $100,000 of that total. But then we use some instructional materials allotment funds, we use some other funds, but.
Title funds, early
Title funds.
education allotment, CTE.
But that local budget piece, which has already been included in our budget, does exceed the $50,000.
Now, these three quotes, they were all basically, you gave the same thing, but the numbers are way different.
Yeah, way
They
They're all
are.
the same, right?
They are.
What we need.
The second most reasonable is the one that we've been working with a long time. So this Office Depot, like I said, that quote came in way underneath. That's, I think they're on your first.
And the other one's way out of this world.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Notice that they're all different.
Yeah.
Indeed.
So actually, by us bidding it, we're going with a different vendor.
Yes,
Yeah.
right, right.
I wish they would lower the rate.
All right, so administration recommends the board approve the student device purchase as presented.
I move to accept the administration's recommendation. Shaw, second. Any further question? All in favor, let it be known by raising your hand. All right, 7-0. Thank you. We will now consider approval of resolution to pay staff during district closure due to inclement weather. Is in by Ms. Engel.
Good evening, Dr. Odom, members of the board, Dr. Gilstrap. As Dr. Gilstrap mentioned in his report earlier, due to the closing of the district on last Wednesday, February 1st, due to the possible hazardous driving conditions, the condition necessitated the district to close all campuses for the safety of our students and staff. In accordance with board policy DEA local, pay during a closing and premium pay during disasters, administration is proposing approval of the attached resolution to go ahead and pay staff members for that day so that they don't have to make it up. You have the resolution there. We did not have any non-exempt staff come in, so there is no, in the cover sheet, it talks about premium pay during the disaster, but we didn't have anybody in that classification that came into work that day or was needed to come into work that day. Are there any questions? If there are not, administration recommends the board approve the resolution regarding employee pay during district closure due to inclement weather, February 1st, 2023, as presented.
Mr. President, I move to accept administration's recommendation.
All right, Mr. Bowman?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Moots? All right, any further questions? All in favor, let it be known by raising your hand. 7-0. Thank you so
All
much.
the employees, thank you very much.
Board members, we will be sending out communication to families and our students tomorrow, letting them know that they won't have to make it up because of the instructional minutes we have banked. We'll also be sending an email out to staff tomorrow to clarify that they will be getting paid. They won't have to make up that day as well. So we'll push that update out to the staff this week.
The board will now convene into executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074, personnel, and 551.089, deliberation regarding security devices or security audits. And this is going to be the 803. The board will reconvene in open session at 9:05 p.m. We will now consider approval of action item number 7A, consider approval of superintendent contract. Do a motion made.
Mr. President, I move to accept superintendent contract as discussed in closed session.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, Mr. Musa. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, let me know by raising your right hand, or what, left hand?
Right hand.
All right,
Can I
anyone
go
opposed,
twice?
right? Both hands, right. Okay, motion carries 7-0.
Thank you, board members, very much for your support with the contract. Again, I'm thrilled to be here, and thank you for your support.
And thank you for
Thank you.
getting back to us and handling our situations. It means a lot to us.
We'll now conclude our agenda for this meeting. Any further business? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned at 9:06 p.m.